faithful, after his noble death in Vanity Fair, had been taken up in a chariot and arrived first at the Celestial City. But Christian was not left to travel on alone. He now had Hopeful as his new companion, and he would soon be in dire need of him. The road ahead was very rough, and their feet were very tender with travelling, and they became much discouraged. At this point, Christian espied a stile, which led into a meadow, and seemed to be a short cut. "Here's better going," he said. "Come, good Hopeful, let's climb over it." What if it leads us out of our way?" asked Hopeful. "That's not likely," said Christian. "Look, there's another man walking ahead of us." So over the stile they went, and Christian was well pleased that the path was easier on his feet. But in leaving the road, he had made a terrible mistake. For soon night came on, and it grew very dark, and they'd completely lost sight of the pilgrim ahead. Did they but know it, his name was Vain Confidence. Suddenly, they heard in the darkness a shriek, followed by an eerie silence. "We'll go no further," said Hopeful in a whisper, clutching at Christian's arm. "I would have spoken up before, only you're older than I am." But even as they tried to turn back, it started to rain, and lighten, and thunder in a very dreadful manner. "Where are we now?" asked Hopeful, without hope. His companion didn't answer. He was completely lost, for the deluge had caused the waters to rise amain and wash away the path. They were even in great danger of being drowned, had they not found a narrow ledge with an overhanging rock. Here they sheltered as best they could, and waited for the dawn, and being tired out, they fell asleep. It was broad daylight when they were awakened by a grim and surly voice. "What are you doing?" it said. "In my private grounds." Looking up, they saw before them the gloomy figure of Giant Despair, owner of Doubting Castle, out for his morning walk. "We're just poor pilgrims who've lost our way," they said. "You're trespassing," said the giant, "trampling down my fields. I'll have to teach you a lesson." They had little to say. They knew they were in the wrong, and since he was stronger than they were forced to accompany him. In the light of day, they could now see before them the battlements of Doubting Castle. Here they were cast into a dungeon, dark and stinking. And here they lay, from Wednesday morning till Saturday night, without one bite of bread or one drop of water. No one came to visit them. They were cut off from their friends. No one knew where they were. And Christian realized it was all his fault for taking the shortcut, and this caused him double sorrow. Now, Giant Despair had a wife. Her name was Diffidence. He never did anything without consulting her, and she was even more malevolent than he was. So, when he was gone to bed, he told her about his prisoners and asked, "What shall I do with them?"
"You're too soft-hearted," she said. "What you must do when you get up in the morning is to beat them without mercy."
So, in the morning, he cut himself a grievous cudgel from a crabapple tree in his garden. Then, railing upon his prisoners as if they were dogs, though they had never uttered a word against him, he beat them most fearfully, and left them helpless on the floor, to spend another day in sighs and lamentations. Next night, the giant was again talking to his wife in bed.
"What? Are they still alive?" she said. "They've nothing left to live for. So, when you get up in the morning, you must tell them to make an end of themselves."
Up he got, and went to them in a surly manner, as before.
"Your only way out of this place," he said, "is by death. So why are you waiting? Make an end of yourselves."
He had thoughtfully provided them with a halter, a knife, and a bottle of poison, so they could have a choice. When they respectfully declined, he looked upon them in a very ugly manner. He would doubtless have killed them himself, but that he fell into one of his fits. For the giant had a secret weakness. On dark and cloudy days, he was as strong as an ox. But in sunshiny weather, he fell into fits. They caused him to lose the use of his hand, and so for a time he had to withdraw. Then Christian and Hopeful discussed among themselves what they should do. "Perhaps the giant is right," said Christian. "Perhaps death would be better than the miserable life we lead." "Not everything," said Hopeful, "is in the hands of Giant Despair. Who knows? But he may have another of his fits, and forget to lock us in. Why, let us not be our own murderers." In this way, Hopeful moderated the mind of his brother. And so they continued together another day in the dark.